Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Hi, I'm the Crypto Crow. I basically took a break last week with conventions and, or not conventions, but the karate combat event, which I've got stuff coming. I've got a video that's coming where I'm going to show you what this is all about for those of you looking for really solid ways of maintaining your cryptocurrency seed phrases and the like. A lot of stuff coming this week, and I am going to start trying to ramp up my content to 2-a-days, including or not including shorts. So hopefully that's well received. And there's some hard-hitting stuff that I'm going to cover, especially in this video, because I think that there's a lot to be said about what's happening with CBDCs, the Fed Now token, poverty in America, the changes that have been happening since 2020, of which have been dramatic, to say the least. And we're going to cover some of that. Now, before I dive too deep into the one side, we're going to start with some information related to the poverty structure in the United States and how things have been dramatically changing. Now, this is an article from September of 2022 showing that the U.S. official poverty rate was 11.6% in 2021 and not much different than it was in 2020, okay? And then we had, in 2020, obviously we had this changeover, and not a whole heck of a lot happened by 2021, but the numbers were relatively lower than the norm, right? Now, as of right now, an estimated 59 million Americans receive welfare during an average month. This number is equivalent to 19% of the population of the United States. The numbers have just been dramatically growing, just getting worse and worse. Now, this is something that you can just read for yourself. More than 90% of the bad situations that occurred during the big bad situation that lasted a few years, 90% of them were elderly adults. Okay, now I want to put this all into perspective. Basically, what we have is a growing poverty rate. The number of people that are relying on government assistance in one way, shape, or form has been growing substantially, all while we had a bad situation that I consider, like if you grow cheese, right, and you basically take you take that layer off that isn't needed, okay, it's not really good. It doesn't add to the cheese. It just kind of takes away from it, or could cause some form of harm. We're seeing a lot of concern related to Social Security benefits and how, one side wants to get rid of them, the other side doesn't. We're seeing a lot of stuff related to how are we going to take care of the old people. And, well, I think an attempt was ultimately made potentially to resolve that issue, with 90% of the of those bad situations ending up being basically elderly people. Now, why is this a big deal? Because I believe, and this is just my opinion, but I believe that ultimately we are looking into, is my audio not working right? Oh, there it is. Okay. I believe that we're looking into a situation where we are looking to bring in the CBDCs, and I believe ultimately that these CBDCs are going to be ushered in primarily and initially for those on government assistance. Now, IMF Director Georgieva, CBDCs are coming and will completely transform the financial system. Now, she spoke at, Georgieva spoke at the Milken Institute's 2023 Global Conference on May 1st, where she addressed the opportunities and risks the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, sees for CBDCs and urged financial leaders to think about the unthinkable. What we have lived through in the last years has been a series of unthinkable events. The pandemic, the war in Ukraine, the rapid jump of interest rates after many, many years of staying low, she said. It is all upon us to anticipate shocks and be ready to act when they occur, because they will be coming. Retail CBDCs are digital currencies issued by central banks directly to citizens for everyday commercial and financial transactions and are designed to replace the country's conventional money supply and circulation. This is what I believe is going to be ushered in for welfare recipients. People that are like SNAP, I think is one of them. What was it, EBT or something like that? I'm not familiar because I haven't been on welfare since I was a kid. And I know that more programs are in place and a lot of things are in place for that now. Now, wholesale CBDCs would be limited to deposits and transactions between the central bank and commercial banks, as well as large-scale financial activities such as international trade and intrabank settlements, but would not be used by the broader public. This is what I believe FedNow is supposed to handle. Okay, FedNow tokens or FedNow coins or whatever they're calling them, I'm pretty sure those are due to come out this month now. It's July. We're in July 2nd, and I think these FedNow tokens are coming out this month. So we're likely going to start seeing remittance to some degree. I'm guessing we're going to see a lot of stuff happening in the actual bank-to-bank transfers, bank-to-bank transactions utilizing the FedNow, which is likely what these wholesale CBDCs are going to be called now. The retail CBDCs, on the other hand, are ultimately what I think are going to be ushered in to bring assistance. I think this is how they're going to establish initial adoption of these CBDCs, through the welfare systems. Why? Because if you've ever received welfare, whether it was food stamps or any kind of government assistance, it is very structured in terms of what you're allowed to spend them on, right? You can't go out and buy a car with food stamps. You can't buy things that they deem unnecessary for survival or to live with food stamps or with unless things have changed in the last like 35 years or however long it's been. I was raised on welfare as a kid. I grew up in Section 8 housing. I know that when we would get them, we would use food stamps, right? And you can't use those to just buy anything. And so the nature of this is very much with CBDCs. Not only can what individual families purchase be controlled by the government, but if you utilize these CBDCs in any way they deem inappropriate, they can just turn them off and you don't get them anymore. And it's that simple. And the other level of this, and this is a very high level opinion, but I believe that at some point these CBDCs are going to be managed by artificial intelligence systems and algorithms. These artificial intelligence systems are going to monitor transactions that are on this system. And I believe that it's the welfare system that is ultimately going to become the test bed for the greater use case of all. And I think that they're going to be building these systems and fine-tuning an AI system to monitor all of this, and they don't have to almost like Google. Google's primarily managed by algorithms, okay? If you send in an email or if you have a problem or something's happening on Google you don't like, maybe your channel gets shut down because the algorithm caught you saying something it didn't like and it had been programmed to be flagged. If you say particular keywords that the algorithm doesn't like, they can just knock the video out, and then you can contest that and say, this was wrong, this is taken out of context, or your algorithm's wrong, or whatever. And then if you're lucky, depending on public outcry, depending on how you're able to get the attention of a real human being at Google or YouTube, then they might look at it and say, oh, you're right, that was an honest mistake. And then they'll just change it back without saying a word. No admittance of fault or anything. They'll just change it back if you're lucky. Sometimes they don't. You never really know because nothing is ever very clear. Now, I believe that we're going to have a system very similar to that as it relates to CBDC tokens and government welfare. And I think that as this system continues to grow and be released into the general public, I think that it's going to be an AI system very similar to Google that is going to monitor transactions and basically dictate what you can and cannot use these CBDCs for. From there, I believe we're going to start seeing adoption of credit card companies and other companies that are basically utilizing CBDCs for the general public's use, because now the test bed has been laid out, the systems have been established, and then they will start ushering them in for general public consumption that will ultimately replace the US dollar. And that is where I think it's going to begin. I think it's going to begin in welfare first. And, I also believe that there is a growing effort to push more and more Americans into a state of poverty. And I don't know if it's just my own opinion, but everything that I'm seeing, a lot of these policies that have been happening, I mean, with inflation, just the price of goods just skyrocketing, I could see at some point in the future, the government saying, you know what, the price of a steak is like $60 a pound, but we know you really want steak and you should have some. You should have a little bit every month, even though the government, the World Economic Forum, these groups are basically, I was looking at a chart, I'm going to pull that up in another video, where it's basically showing its goals for the United States by 2025 and 2030. And it's like, they don't want you eating meat at all. Like they don't want you consuming really any of this stuff, unless they're profiting from it somehow, is the grand message there. But, if you use or you decide to adopt CBDCs for your everyday use, maybe you'll get some discounts on some of these goods that are considered almost taboo at the time that these things are considered. And I think that is how they're going to start ushering in the general populace after the welfare recipients, the poverty-stricken, individuals in our country, and I think that they're going to go hand in hand. And I'm seeing so many of these policies ultimately bringing more and more people into the fold of government assistance, and the government saying, "We're here for you. We're here for you. All you have to do is obey. All you have to do is listen." And this is one of the other reasons why I think that people that are able to establish themselves, whether basically you want to get out of debt. And I think that this current time frame between now and 2025 is going to be a very much make it or break it cycle for everyone in this country. And if you're not paying attention to cryptocurrencies, as much as cryptocurrencies now, even to me, sounds cartoonish, because I am so used to the word, and I am so used to the pros and cons, the cons and the scams, as well as the growth and the real technologies. If I try to sit around and I compare Cardano with other blockchains out there, there's just no comparison, right? But there's so much bloatware in the crypto space right now. There's so much garbage that I wish I could just uninstall and get rid of and focus on the applications that I really think are worthwhile, that have proven to be technologically sound and continue to get better. But you can't, right? You got to have the bloat. And it's all of that bloat that creates kind of a negative connotation to crypto to a lot of newcomers. They don't understand what's good, what's bad, where should I invest, where I shouldn't invest. And that's why folks like myself, we try to do content on a regular basis to help enlighten and educate people on what has been proven over the course of the last 5-6 years, what has started out in one way and grown into becoming a monster on its own, and has proven itself worthwhile, trustworthy, and dedicated to the science, if you will, or the technological advancements of this era of disruption. And I think now is the time to really be paying the most attention and dare I say, to some degree, taking those risks that could potentially pay off in dramatic ways between now and 2025. Because I think this honestly could be it. And I think that depending on what happens in 2024 will ultimately dictate the outcomes for many not only in crypto but in the world, because these agendas and these policies that are happening are all coming down from a very from the same place. And if you really want to better understand what the future may very well hold if these agendas and these policies are continued to be pushed on the general public of multiple countries, all you have to do is look at the World Economic Forum and you'll get a really good idea as to what's happening and why. Read some of the books by Klaus Schwab so that you can better understand his mindset, why he is pushing for a lot of this stuff. Look at some of the stances of people like George Soros and their efforts if you want to understand kind of what's happening and why things are so crazy in the judicial system, why crime has been going rampant in major, Democratic ran states and cities. Just look at George Soros and understand his ideologies behind why he thinks the world should be different and what he's ultimately doing. Funding a lot of people in these positions of power, whether they're, attorney generals or mayors or whatever, all the way down to like the different groups that are running around throwing bricks and burning buildings and cars and things in protest of X, Y, or Z. The world is going crazy, and it's at the hands of those that want to see dramatic change in the United States for what they think is going to be the better, all striving towards some socialistic utopia where, everyone is equal. There is no more innovation. There is no more growth in our systems. Everyone is the same. Everyone is a gray alien. And, those systems have proven time and time again to not work and to not maintain a functional state within the global plan. But for whatever reason, they always think if we just do it differently this time, it'll come out and turn out different. But it never seems to, and ultimately ends up as the downfall of every major civilization. Hopefully we're able to avert some of that by means of blockchain technology and cryptocurrency, and ultimately the transparencies associated with each. And so on that note, I bid you adieu. I hope you have a fantastic week. I will be back with more throughout this week. And, if you're bored and you just want a breath of fresh air, just check out murderofcrows.io. Check out crowtokens.com. Crow tokens being my shitcoin legacy in the cryptocurrency space that will live on long before or long after I do, unless I can get buddy with Klaus Schwab and I can evolve into some sort of transhumanism immortal being to enlighten everyone on the blockchain space forever. But we'll see. I guess that'll just depends on votes and maybe how many crickets I eat. Until next time, guys, crow your coins. I love you. I'll see you soon.